Alright folks, welcome back. So as mentioned in the trailer for patch 1.12 on the common test, there are going to be 15 vehicles, likely premiums, receiving a buff this year. Just because they're kind of trash, to put a lack of a good term, but they have been power crept to hell. They are bottom of the barrel, and it is pretty hard to make a new tank out of scratch. So why not just rehash or revamp the old crap and sell it again, right? So that's kind of the wargaming tactic. But let's take a look at the list of premium tier 8s, as well as the stats for all the servers based on performance and 1% ratio or something. So we can take a look at the bottom of the barrel, the junk of the junk, the trash of the trash, and which ones kind of do need a buff. So we're not going to talk about the light tanks or the premium light tanks, because the best way to buff light tanks, nerf the EBR. That's practically it. All you have to do, if nerf the EBR, you can have the return of all the premium lights or just regular lights, and that would be the case. But after taking a look at the stats from Watt-News, it looks like the Synlac is kinda underperforming, similar to the T92 for some reason. These two tanks are actually decent based on my stats, or based on my judgment of stats and the standard average, but yeah, EBR is a thing, so don't know why the Synlac is on the bottom, as well as the T92. The Black Bulldog is doing better, as well as the Chinese Bulldog for some reason, but I don't know. So that's a question for another day. But in all honesty, if you want to buff the premium lights or even just the regular light tanks, nerf the EBR. So with that being said, yeah, you can see the, oh wow, Chinese Bulldog and the Black Bulldog are doing worse on the Asian server. That's interesting. Other than the T92 light tank as well, but there's no Synlac for the Asian server. That's interesting. They don't have the Synlac. They should. But yeah, I have gathered their list after taking a look at the stats, and obviously everybody knows the Panther 88 suck. The 59 Patton suck. So they are buffing the Super Pershing, and we're not going to talk about the 4 candidates currently on 1.12. So it's the Super Pershing, the STG, the STA2, and the T34-3. So we're not going to talk about that. They are kind of on the bottom of the list, but I don't think the Super Pershing needs one. It's alright, but it has preferential matchmaking. But STA2 kind of needs a DPM / accuracy buff. I could see that could be a good case for the vehicle. But let's take a look at the list I made up based on the stats you could see right now, just so we can move along the video. But here are the garbage, the bottom of the barrel, the lint in your dryer. So obviously the 59 Patton, this is a hunk of junk. It's alright in terms of penetration, but the power crept of penetration, average penetration for tier 8s have jumped from 180mm to about 210 or 220 for medium tanks. So this is now average. Originally, when all the mediums at tier 8 had about 180 or 190mm of pen, this was actually pretty good. But you got power crept. DPM is average, nothing to write home about. Accuracy is average too. Aim time is a little bit long, but average. Could be like 2 seconds. That would be good, but yeah. 9 degrees of gun depression. It's the Patton turret. A huge commander cupola negates all the strength of the turret front, so just shoot the gigantic tumor and you'll pin. Doesn't have a high horsepower per ton ratio, so doesn't rev up as quick. Top speed is only 50, so it's not as fast, but it does have 400 meters of view range. So how the hell would I buff this thing? Give it more DPM to like 2300, better accuracy, a little bit quicker of an aim time, 2.1 seconds. Penetration could stay the same, but make it a little bit faster, better horsepower per ton ratio, better DPM, better accuracy. That's all you have to do. And this thing is still average because giant ass tumor on the turret. Alright, moving on to the next candidate. the Patton KR pretty much outclassed or powercrept yet again. Penetration is still the original average-ish, 192. So DPM is actually below average. Long aim time, accuracy is also a little bit below average as well. 10 degrees of gun depression. Turret armor is not as strong as you would think. So it's like the Eagle 7 at tier 7, practically. The proto Pershing, or yeah. So only thing this thing could bounce is the mantlet. So using the mantlet to bounce. I have skins for most of the vehicles, just so I can look at skins. But turret traverse speed is a little bit low. Yeah. Mobility wise does have the horsepower per ton ratio, but top speed is kind of slow as well. Does have the camo, so view range 390. So how the hell would I buff this thing? Make it 400 meters of view range. More DPM, obviously. Not as long of an aim time, and a little bit better accuracy. And also the penetration. Give it at least 210 or something, or 200. 192 is scraping the bottom of the barrel. It's not like as bad as the T69, but yeah, it's not good. So yeah, this thing, it doesn't need armor, it just needs a little bit better performance in the other areas. If you want to have armor, we can talk about armor. But speaking of armor, we get this thing. Oh my god. The Räumpanzer. It's basically a Patton with a shovel. Surprisingly, it's German. It has garbage accuracy, 0.4. Good aim time. DPM is also below average, 9 degrees of gun depression. Average pen, but kind of outclassed. It was meant to be played as a pseudo Super Pershing, if you will, based on the shovel, based on the armor, but it has a tumor. The M1 cupola is a gigantic ass tumor. It's not helpful. So it has a strong turret front, of course, but the tumor negates all of that. So this was meant to be played as a Super Pershing. This practically negates everything. It's slow, doesn't rev up as fast, only 40 kilometers per hour top speed. Ugh. It's practically a heavy tank in terms of concealment, and only 380 meters of view range. So if you want to give this thing armor, remove the cupola or make it the same cupola as the Iridium cupola for the actual Patton at tier 10. So the Iridium cupola developed by the Israelis. So here you can see, what the hell is my Patton? So the actual Iridium cupola instead of the M1 cupola, but goddamn, that thing is huge. Same for, yeah, that's practically the M1 cupola modified, but god, it's so big. That's what she said. So yeah, this thing. If you wanted to make it the armor thing, buff the cupola, obviously. If you wanted to make it as a medium, make it more like speedier, I guess. So it's always been about the shovel. Make it you can ram people and deal extra damage. That could be fun. They're not going to. It's way too complicated for their pay grade. But I guess this will never be as good as a Super Pershing. Never. Just because of that weak spot. And the Super Pershing has a little bit better pen now, doesn't it? 205 compared to the Super Persh of 202. Never mind. I'm lying. But yeah, the Super Persh, the cupola is smaller. And it's hidden behind the coils for the gun. So it's harder to see. Oh. Practically the same horsepower per ton ratio, but the Super Pershing, oh, I have the turbocharger, so technically is faster, but this is getting faster based on the buff on 1.12. So let's not talk about the Räumpanzer. And the Jagdtiger 88 has been surprisingly underperforming, even though it got buffed in terms of DPM. So it has good DPM now. So with the rammer, it's 3,400. Quick aim time, good accuracy, 7 degrees of gun depression. So they buffed the pen from like the original 200mm to 212, but it's still the 88, pumping out a lot of shots. But It's practically a heavy assault gun of a tank destroyer, so you could play this thing as a tank destroyer, but the pen is not good for a tank destroyer. So unless you're shooting all gold shell, but you know, yeah, just waste all the money, why don't you? Also, the gold shell doesn't look as appetizing as well. It's only 237 compared to the 212 for the standard shell. Oh my god. You will struggle to pen some tier 8s even with 237. I don't know. Well, it doesn't have a turret. That's a big problem for the Jagdtiger 88. It has the superstructure, but you have to play this thing aggressively if you want the damage. Otherwise, the penetration is not going to help. So, how the hell would I buff this thing? It's hard to buff this thing. It already has received a lot more DPM, so about 3000 base, which is astronomically good for a tier 8, but it's struggling apparently. So are the noobs not playing this thing well? I guess, I don't know. Make it only tier 8 preferential matchmaking? That would be broken as shit. This can only see tier 8s and some tier 6s. That is bonkers. I don't know how the hell would I buff the Jagdtiger 88. I don't know, maybe more engine power, maybe, to compensate, but that's a question mark. Also, I have 13 vehicles, so obviously it's more than the required 11. That's left unknown for now, but we'll see. Panther 88. Oh, it's jeez. Well, it did receive a buff, but base DPM is still good. 2,500. Aim time is a little bit long, a little bit. 8 degrees of gun depression, slower turret traverse compared to the average for medium tanks, but 203mm of pen, 280 alpha. So they buffed it recently, but yeah, DPM is actually kind of high for a tier 8 medium, but it is a Panther, so moves a little bit slower than the counterparts at tier 8, and the armor is practically non-existent. 120 is might as well be the same as 80 or something, but how the hell would I buff this thing? Camo is also garbage. 390 meters of view range. Radio is kind of below average. Sheezy. How the hell would I buff this Panther 88? Faster aim time. That's a start. A little bit better engine power. That's another thing. Could use a buff to the penetration, but you have to pen buff all the 88s for like the Tiger 1s or the Panther at tier 7s or stuff. But 280 alpha was originally 240, but they buffed the DPM obviously with that. I don't know. You're not going to buff the armor, otherwise it will be like an E50. It's historically inaccurate if you buff the armor, but if you put spacing, like space armor or something, that could be a thing. It'll be a lot different than the actual Panther 80 or Panther 2, I guess. Even though that's practically a Panther bumped up a tier. So German. The Panther 2 has slightly thicker armor, I think, for the turret. Actually for the hull. But yeah. Yeah, 223 for the gun. It's the long barrel 88. It's like L100 or something. Yep, long barrel L100, not the L71. But it still has good DPM too, even with that penetration buff. So this thing got buffed. It's not as fast, but it has 60 km/h top speed. So as for the Panther 88, yeah, hull is not as good. Same turret front. Never mind. Top speed could use a little buff. Only 46. Buff the top speed. Lower the aim time. Preferential matchmaking? Maybe. I don't know. Or you could put like space armor for the turret front or the hull front. Just make it a little bit more viable. Maybe. I don't know. It has been on the bottom of the barrel, like, for all time. Even when it was introduced, like way back when. It was always garbage. Nobody would actually buy it, but alright, the Swiss with a Panzer 58. DPM is below average. Aim time is a little bit long, but it's a 90mm. Yep, 90. Average pen, 250 alpha. Armor's non-existent. Horsepower per ton ratio is not as good as you like for a fast vehicle, supposed to be a fast vehicle. And view range is average. How the hell would I buff this thing? 400 meters of view range. About 20 horsepower per ton ratio. 2.1 seconds of aim time. 280 alpha. That's it. You don't have to buff the DPM. If you buff the alpha, that will automatically buff the DPM. So 280 alpha, buff the horsepower per ton ratio, buff the view range. Make this more like the Leopard 1s of tier 8. Make it a little bit more viable. Yeah. But there are 3 versions of this tank. The normal version, the Schwartz version, which is the black version, and the actual Mutz version. So, on to this thing. Oh, it was a marathon reward. Way back when. I played it. Way back when. Give up. Penetration is the old OG of pen for average tier 8s. So, garbage. DPM is actually not bad. Average accuracy, but good aim time. 10 degrees of gun depression. Quick turret traverse, but the pen needs a buff. So, let's see the gold shell. Gold shell is okay, 243. Not as good as the Pershing, surprisingly. When I played the Pershing, it had like 268 millimeters of pin for the gold shell, which I thought was ridiculous. 268. Fuck it, I'll spam all gold shell. It still has the original 190 average alpha, or average pin for the 90mm at tier 8. So this is the relic of the past. But hell, spam all gold shell and you'll pin. Goddamn. The Pershing is one of the old archaic medium tank. It still has a turret armor compared to the Pilot Number 1, but 76 at the hull front, 76 at the turret front, garbage. Horsepower per ton ratio, garbage. Top speed is decent, but yeah, you'll never reach that top speed. Even with... Oh, I put the turbocharger. That doesn't count, but still, you'll never reach it. Camo is not the best. I have the coated optics, so that's off scale. But armor sucks. So this thing, how the hell would I buff it? Buff the pen, mostly. The pen is the thing. Unless you want to shoot all gold shell with this thing. Ugh. But horsepower per ton ratio also needs a buff. It will see tier 10s though. That's a problem. And your gold shell is not as effective against tier 9s even. So yeah, horsepower needs a buff, definitely. And camo is also not the greatest. View range, average for American too. It should be like 400 meters of view range. Buff the pen. AMX CDC, I never had one, but archaic old pen that was considered good. Now it's average. DPM, that's average. Good accuracy, decent aim time, 10 degrees of gun depression. A little bit slow on the turret traverse, but hey, no armor whatsoever, so you'll get high explosive to hell. Horsepower per ton ratio is off the charts and it turns very quickly, but top speed is only 57, so camo is also garbage. View range, average. How the hell would I buff this thing? Make the top speed like 70. It'll be like a light tank with a decent gun. Yeah, make the top speed 70, as well as buffing the alpha to like 280 or something. That will buff the DPM. That will actually make the whole vehicle a little bit more viable. You still get nuked by high explosive, but you'll be a lot faster. So maybe you don't get hit if you are a lot faster, which I doubt it, but yeah, make this thing the same speed as light tanks and you practically could survive a little bit longer. A little bit. Alright. Oh god. Oh, I put the frontline version. Never mind. This is the frontline version and the actual version are practically the same. Never mind. Let's use the actual version. I don't like looking at the skin. The skin sucks. Sherman Revalorisé. It's Le French. There it is. That's the skin. But penetration, compared to the STG or the 122 TM, pins below average when you're dealing that high of an alpha. So yeah, accuracy and aim time are buff based on the crew skill, but 2.3 is a little bit long. Then again, it's a larger caliber than a 90 or 88, so justifiable to have 2.3 seconds of aim time and 0.34 for the accuracy. But DPM with the rammer is alright, but it has no armor. Horsepower per turn ratio is buff by my turbocharger, but normally, just take a look at the normal stat. Normally it has blah 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 blah, only 1900 DPM, below average. Yeah, okay. It's 200mm pin, yada yada. Only 15.7 horsepower per ton ratio, so top speed of 40 is also bleh. But then again, it's a Sherman chassis, so no camo whatsoever. 390 meters of view range. How the hell would I buff this thing? How the hell would I buff a Sherman at tier 8 just so it's competitive? Buff the pen to like 233, similar to the 122 TM. Buff the top speed maybe to like 50. But then again, it's still a Sherman chassis, so you're putting way too much unhistorical erratas into the game, which that doesn't matter. Maybe buff the camo or maybe buff the view range to like 400 meters. But the best way to solve this vehicle's problem is buff the pen. Don't make it reliant on the high explosive anti-tank. Just buff the pen to like 230 or something, or even 220. That will help out tremendously. And buff the horsepower per ton ratio, or even the top speed. Don't even have to buff the horsepower per ton, but you haven't seen a sale. Well, is it available all year round to be bought off of the tech tree? If it is, then there's no. Yeah, you can buy it whenever, so it's garbage. It's not exclusive enough where there's only a limited time period that you can buy it. So it's available all year round, and it's crap. Alright, we're almost done, folks. We're almost done. 4 more. T34. Surprisingly, I do well in mine, quote unquote, but DPM always has been a downside for this vehicle, as well as slow aim time, really slow aim time, and a long reload for the gun that only deals 400 alpha. So yeah, it's like the 122 TM, but it has a strong turret front. Then again, the T29 has a strong turret front, just carries over to this vehicle, so a little bit better of a rear armor plating for the counterweight at the back of the turret, but that nobody's shooting at the back of the turret. So how the hell would I buff this thing? Better DPM, faster aim time, definitely faster aim time. The aim time is way too long. It's like a T30, way too long. For a 120, way too long. And buff the horsepower per ton ratio. Maybe buff the top speed to like 40 or something. View range could be better, but camo is always garbage. The heaviest downside to this vehicle has always been the long aim time. The same vehicle hull and turret as the T29 at tier 8, but T29 is very good. So maybe put like space armor for the upper plate. That could be a thing, but mostly buff the aim time, buff the DPM. That's all you have to do. Practically it. Maybe buff the engine power by a little bit. That's all you have to do. IS-6 recently got buffed, or at least for the last year or so, but I just found out they buffed the ammo count to like 37. Originally it was 30, and that was horrendous, especially with the lower pen. Originally the gold shell was 217. I remember it correctly because I played this vehicle a lot, and it was like 217. They buffed the pen by like 8mm, so, and more ammo, but T25 doesn't compare to the other like IS-6s of tier 8, which is basically the WZ-111 and the 113, not the 113, 112, the Chinese practically premium version of the IS-6 with preferential matchmaking, but they have a lot better of a gold shell, and they carry more ammo. They carry 45 rounds with high explosive anti-tank at 250 millimeters of pin, so obviously they will do better. How the hell would I buff the IS-6 then? Well, it got a buff in terms of armor slightly, from what I remember, but nobody mentioned the ammo count buff. How the hell would I buff an IS-6? Well, penetration is still garbage. It got buffed from the original average for D25T, which was 175. I remember it correctly, but maybe a little bit more engine power, maybe, for the IS-6. Still doesn't help though. Wouldn't help much. It's always been the lack of penetration, the long aim time, the garbage accuracy, and everything got powercrept because all tier 8s receive a better pin. And you will still see tier 9s where sometimes you'll get flanked around by like EBRs or stuff. So this thing has been powercrept to hell. Back then, this was the go-to for pub stomping like tier 6s and tier 7s, just because they cannot pin the armor and it's difficult. Nowadays, it has been powercrept to hell. So back then, like 5 years ago, the IS-6 was to covet for. It was the best. You want to have one. It was better than a KV5. It was good and bouncy. It was great. Nowadays, it's a skateboard ramp. Got nerfed to shit. Well, indirectly nerfed to shit because the environment got a lot better. Buff the accuracy, buff the aim time, buff the DPM. Well, buff the pen. You don't have to buff the DPM. Buff the penetration. Penetration has always been suck for the original D25T. Give it the IS-5 treatment. Like the IS-5 has a better APCR standard shell than the IS-6. What the hell's my IS-5? I have an IS-5. I know I have. Oh, there it is. But standard shell is the APCR round. The high explosive anti-tank is the gold shell, so it performs a lot better, but it still has a dirty ammo count limitation, so blah. Still long aim time, garbage accuracy. A little bit better of a cupola and the turret, so it's harder to hit the cupola a little bit, but oh, IS-6, you were once king, now you're just garbage made of sand. And we're on to the FV4202. So this was originally tier 10, but nowadays it's, well, historically more accurate than the original tier 10 version. So tier 10 version never was historically accurate with 100 millimeters of hull armor, so they nerfed it obviously. But how the hell would I buff this thing? Guns penetration is okay. Alpha could use a little help with 230. DPM obviously will be helped if you buff the alpha. Accuracy aim time doesn't need help with that aspect. Maybe buff the upper plate to like 70, maybe. Turret front, it's like the Action X turret front, a little bit weaker, but maybe buff the engine power. And should have like 390 or 400 meters of view range base. Let's see. Top speed could also use a buff. Engine power obviously use a buff. 390 meters of base view range. Buff the alpha. Buff the alpha. Buff the upper plate. Buff the engine power. That should be good. And finally, FCM50T. This thing is practically an AMX CDC with a little bit better armor. Little bit. 120 might as well be the same as 50 or 60. It doesn't matter. You'll get pinned. So accuracy is average. Aim time is 90 millimeter gun. 90 millimeter gun. You could buff the alpha. That will buff the DPM, which will help. It's like a large, fat, medium tank. So good horsepower per turn ratio. Maybe you buff the top speed to like 60. That will help. Garbage camo. Buff the top speed to 60. Buff the alpha. It's practically a medium tank, like the Chasseur de Chars, the CDC, but maybe buff the turret traverse a little bit. Buff the pin. It plays like a medium, so I would buff either the pin or the alpha or both. and buff the top speed to like 60, buff the camo a little bit better, so play it like a medium. But there you go, folks. Half an hour of random garbage, so take a look at the stats yourself. But obviously this is the 90mm version of the Jagdtiger, so it's not in rotation. You could switch it out, but for those who already have one, they will probably never change it from the 90 to the 105 for like a while. Who knows? But yeah, 59 Patton's garbage. STA2 is garbage. Patton KR is garbage. Panzer 58 is garbage. CDC garbage. And we're getting at the better end. FCM50T is mostly a relic of the past, so it's never on sale. It doesn't go on sale for a while, so you can see that vehicles like the the Jumbo Pershing is performing better, as well as the Scorpion G, as well as the vehicles with armor, like where the hell is the vehicles with armor? Like 703, it has armor, it performs a little bit better. Same goes with the TS5, it has armor, it performs better. Defender, Object 252U, armor, it does better. So basically, if you make it noob friendly, it does a little bit better, right? But nobody has the KTTS. It's only been tested, as well as some of this thing. There's no Mammut. Oh, it's a weird version. It's only been tested version. I was like, what the hell is that? It's a premium version. There's no such thing as a Mammut premium version. I don't know. It's weird. They're doing a lot of tests over the years and stuff. EBR has a lot higher win rate, even though it doesn't have armor, because fucking headless chicken. But there you go, folks. Some of the most garbage of the garbage of the garbage tier 8s premiums in the game that kind of requires a buff. So I wouldn't expect a buff for like the Jagdtiger 88 or something like a T34 or IS6, because those IS6 and the Jagdtiger 88 got recently buffed, quote unquote, within the last 2 years or so. But I would expect a buff for something like the Pattons or the Pershings and stuff. Actually, these are all Pattons. That one has the Pershing turret or pseudo 46 turret. They're all the same. Whatever. This thing, yeah, garbage. For like 3 or 4 years, garbage. Oh my god. Revalorisé doesn't have the pen. You can buy it whenever, but penetrations suck. So there you go, folks. Some of the trashiest of tier 8s, but leave your comments on which tier 8s that you would like to see buff. Obviously, I want to see nerf for something like the EBR, but they're not going to nerf that. And vehicles that got, you know, escaped the nerf hammer or nerf bat, which is like the projectile. When all the projectiles lost the rammer, this thing still kept the DPM. So pseudo buffed, because you can put more equipment now without the rammer. So wonderful. But yeah, there are a few vehicles that are actually very good. Like, this thing doesn't need a buff. Are you kidding? This thing might need a nerf. Don't nerf this thing though. Don't nerf it. And vehicles like the Jumbo Pershing, yeah, that thing is excellent. This thing, god, it's so good. Yeah, this might require nerf, but it doesn't have the penetration, so it's fast. It has armor, but who the hell knows? So yeah, there you go, folks. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
"一人でいたってくらいだけでしょ」